welcome everyone who has joined us. This is a fantastic breakout session where we're going to be talking about jobs with social impact. And I wanted to first introduce our speakers, though. We have Una Lavelle, and she is the general manager of RecycleIT, a social enterprise which creates training and employment opportunities through management of waste and electrical and electronic equipment. So which we hear about a lot, WEEE. And Una has been in this role since 2007. Prior to this, Una was a member of the Environmental Working Group established by South Dublin County Partnership. She studied environmental science at Trinity College in Dublin and is a trained environmental auditor and a certified waste management. So she is our chair, actually, of Community Resources Network Ireland, CRNI. So we're delighted to have you, Una. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. Yeah. And then we have Martin Ward, and he is the joint coordinator of the Galway Traveller Movement and is the main driver of the Galway Traveller Movement social enterprises. Martin has successfully run his own family business for the last 20 years and was instrumental in the naming of enterprise and work as a strategic area of importance for the Galway Traveller Movement in 2006. So since 2009, Martin has been involved in the design and development and growth of first-class insulation and BounceBack Recycling. And Martin is passionate about the challenges of racism and discrimination experienced by the traveler community and believes that the quality of life of his community will be improved by addressing inequality, including income inequality. And welcome so much. We're delighted to have both of you here. And I wanted to note also that both organizations are members of CRNI. So we're delighted to have you as well. So I wanted to just start to really talk about exploring how there's a couple of different topics we'll cover, how you as organizations currently create and sustain local jobs, and then your views of the future. So how will funding and policy developments impact your business? So first, what would you say the profile of jobs what is the profile of the jobs that your organizations provide? If one of you wants to just hop in.
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Well, thanks, Christine, for the lovely introduction, first of all. And thank you for all the hard work you've put in getting the conference organised. I don't know if our listeners realise that you were the driving force behind a lot of it today and tomorrow. So thank you for that. And welcome to whoever is listening to us here today. The jobs, I suppose we were listening to policy earlier on, so myself and Martin are about to get back to brass tacks and actually describe how it actually is on the ground. And we work in recycling. We work in waste logistics, and it's quite specific. It's waste, electronic and electrical equipment. And we were the first company in Europe to offer curbside collections for this particular type of waste. We were also the first specialised waste facility in Ireland to offer this service. And we've been funded from the Social Economy Fund back in 2002 when we were established. Our first initial funding was under social economy. So we were very much embedded in social economy and social enterprise and community development as well. Now, the jobs that we provide are they're not really any different to jobs that any enterprise provides. So there's no kind of unusual set of skills, I suppose, that's required to work in circular economy. Like every other business, we have somebody who answers the phone. We have somebody who manages the books. So we have our financial administrator. We have a marketing manager. We have a warehouse supervisor. We have drivers, and we have driver assistants, and we have people who are involved in dismantling. So and there's myself. So there's nothing kind of bizarre about these jobs in the circular economy are jobs with social impact. I suppose what makes us different is where our employees may come from, their backgrounds, and maybe the road they've traveled to get to the positions they're in our company. And hopefully, if we're successful, a lot of the times we're just a stepping stone in their career. And that's, I suppose, what makes a social enterprise different to any other enterprise, is that you take, or for me in particular, and it's a huge challenge, is I have staff, particularly if I have young staff. I mean, it happened a couple of years ago where we'd had staff who'd been with us for 6 and 7 years, and over those 6 and 7 years, several times I would, and maybe several times a year, I would approach them and we'd talk about their career prospects, their development, training, and they just, you know, they weren't ready to move. With, you know, I was always speaking with the intention that they would be moving on to better positions with, you know, maybe health insurance provision, a lot of the things that we have caps on our wages. So we want anyone moving on from us to be going into have better prospects, better potential for their own growth, and you know, better bonuses, etc. You know, around their jobs. So it's very hard to take your most promising employees and be really effectively training them up to go off into the private enterprise. But that is what we do, and that's what we're there to do, is to provide that type of forum for people who want to use that. And sometimes it's just about gaining self-confidence. If people have been out of work for months or years, a lot of it can be daunting. Coming back into a full staff room or at lunchtime can be daunting for somebody who hasn't interacted in a long time with someone. So that's so we take all of that into consideration. And that's, some people just need to get their feet under them. And so those are the type of jobs that we do, Christine. I mean, I could go on, I could talk. If anybody wants to drill down, I'm quite happy to do that.
Oh, that's great. And also, I was going to say, definitely, you know, use the chat if you'd like for conversations and questions. And that's great. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And it's really interesting about the stepping stone piece of it, you know, and that you're, you know, creating this space for people to really grow and then move on to something different. And what about you, Martin? You know, what's the profile, you know, of the jobs, and also how do you kind of create and sustain the jobs? Like, how do you know, who helps to fund that?
So similar to, like, we're a social enterprise based in Galway, and we were established, BounceBack was established in 2017, and it's mattress and furniture recycling. But we were established to create employment for members of the traveller community who find it extremely hard to get employment, and constantly have an 80% or more unemployment rate, even during the boom times. You know, so they face huge barriers to work. We have similar roles too, like we've admin roles, finance, general operatives, you know, upholstery, drivers, foremen, and managers. And like that, we see it like we have staff and we'll have ongoing jobs and probably long-term jobs. But when people's skills develop and build, you hope that they progress into the mainstream. But even that for us at the minute, coming from the traveller community, because of the barriers that face the mainstream employment, that's a challenge even to get people to progress on. So we're trying to link with employers for the progression route, because once people build the skills and the confidence, they should be moving in, you know, and taking up roles that actually meets the skills that they've developed. So like, we can only have one manager in BBR, where if we train 10, why can't we have 10 then moving on into mainstream? But that's a challenge, you know, for us at the minute, and especially the community. Like Community Foundation of Ireland did a study in 2017, and it said that 83% of non-travellers wouldn't employ a traveller. So so we're only 1% of the population in Ireland. So having 16 jobs that we do have now is like having 1,600 jobs in a non-traveller project. That's how much this means. Like, and breaking down all the perceptions that travellers don't want to work. Like we would say that that's a myth. We have people knocking on the door every day, similar, I suppose, to Una. It's just giving people an opportunity. And once you give them an opportunity, they can try in the space. Our jobs then are maintained. We get some government funded through the community services program, and the rest then is all pretty much trained income. We do go after different grants, so we've been on Rethink Ireland programs, and we did the Climate Kick program, but they're not ongoing support. So the biggest support we have since we established was the community services program as part of community and rural.
That's great. Thank you so much. And is that the same for you, Una? Like, is it the CSP mainly too? So, like, what schemes?
Yeah, it is, Christine. But actually, one thing Martin didn't say it, but when most of the country was locked down from March to May last year, BounceBack was one of the very few enterprises, never mind social enterprises, that continued to actually offer service during that time. So, I mean, hats off to you, Martin. We were afraid, you know, and an awful lot of businesses were afraid, but you had managed it very successfully to carry on trading, which is real credit to you. I suppose, yeah, I suppose different from Martin is that we have worked with all the labour activation measures, apart from LEADER, because we're not rural, but we would have experience of community services programme, which is administered by Pobble, and we're very fortunate. That really, in terms of supporting social enterprise at the minute, it is the platinum standard. It's full-time positions. There's a significant contribution towards wages. You are expected to top it up to living wage, and I know at the moment a lot of organisations are struggling just to pay minimum wage, but you know the expectation is there that you will bring it up to living wage, and that's why we trade is with that. That's the reason that we try and maximize our traded income, is that we can maximize the wage contribution. So we have that's the CSP, which you'll hear a lot about. It as I said, the departments are very happy. You know, it's a very successful program for the social enterprise sector. The other labour activation measures that we would use is the community employment scheme, which is a part-time. So you have staff working 19.5 hours, and they can, depending on their age, they can be with you from anywhere from 1 to 6 years. So if they're over a certain age, getting close to retirement age, you could have somebody with you for 6 years. The usual is 3 years, and it's with that comes a training budget, which is really, really far-sighted of the department to actually put a training budget with any of the labour activation schemes, because it's so important. And we've been able to draw down that training budget to train people in internal auditing. And you know, so we also have somebody who, our person who's in our finance administration at the minute, she started with us on another program called TOOS, which is a 1 year, you're pulled at random off the labour, off the social welfare, and you're sort of presented to different development agencies as a potential for social enterprises or community development enterprises. And it can be very successful, but there's been a few challenges that have needed to be ironed out as well during its inception.
That's amazing. So this woman who joined under TOOS is now focusing, you've upskilled her, and now she's doing your finances. Yeah,
so she started with us on TOOS, which was a 12-month program. Then she moved into CE, where she was given the benefit of further intensive training. And then she was able to progress. We happened to have a position, and she was coming out of her CE position. We had an opening in finance administration, and she applied. And she is at the minute, she's working through her ACCA exams, which is your accountancy exams. So it's a misconception that people long-term unemployed don't want to work. It's like Martin, you know, it really is the people on social welfare payments. It is a misconception that they don't want to work. It's just that sometimes the thought of going back to work is so overwhelming from a social point of view, and just that engagement can be just horrifying for people. But once they come back in, they really enjoy the social interaction with staff. And we've had people who have come to us enthused, who really may have been better off suited with maybe disability payments, or that you would feel that maybe they weren't ready at all for the work environment, but they really enjoyed it, and they were very productive with us, and we moved those into CE if at all possible, to hold them with us for that bit longer while they get their feet under them and get a little bit more established. So if you can manage the different labour activation schemes, it can really work in the favour of the people that you're trying to employ, and it can also benefit the enterprise as a whole, because you've that continuity of experience as opposed to chopping and changing with new people the whole time. And we, because we would have some people with literacy issues, we also have a sort of a buddying up or a system in terms of training, because of literacy issues, not everybody, it's it can be very uncomfortable for some people. So when you have somebody that it really it gets over that issue, and it's and there's not many enterprises where somebody will come in and tell you at an interview that I can't read and write, but because we're a social enterprise, people feel they can be open with information like that, which is very, very personal, and it's not my place to try and teach them how to read and write. That's their own choice. And if they come to me and say, can you? I mean, the offer is always there, but I'm not going to force anybody. That is definitely not my position, to force anybody to do anything that they're not comfortable with. So you work with the people you have, and the social impact is with the people you have employed, but it's also with the greater community, because we're all providing service. For us, we have insurance to go in and out of people's houses and sheds, which the local authority wouldn't have had, the bulky collections. So our unique selling point, I suppose, has been that we have insurance to help people who are elderly or have disabilities or just living on their own. Managing a washing machine and you're living on your own is not simple. It's actually very dangerous. It's very heavy, and you could do yourself an injury. Whereas we have the teams to do that. So the jobs with social impact, it's not just the impact that getting a job has on that person, but it's that's just the drop in the ocean that ripples out into their families, into the community, and then into the jobs, the service that's provided by the social enterprise. So it's very encompassing the impact, the social impact created by the social enterprises. And I'm sure
that is fantastic. Yeah. I mean, and how do you, this is great. Just, wow. A really rich conversation. Thank you. And I'm wondering, like in terms of, all of the different policies that are coming out, the Green Deal, just transition, that all of the momentum that's happening right now, do you feel like those will feed into more job creation within your social enterprises? And, what kind of funding or policies would you need kind of to help you advance that?
Well, I know that we would like to think that they would, but it's just how that joined up thinking is happening. Do you know what I mean? So it's great that, like in 2019, we got the social enterprise strategy, the first time that Ireland had one of those, and we can see different supports coming on board there, which is great, and building that awareness. Even from a community level to why engage with the social enterprise, because the social benefits that we deliver is much more than actually the euro or 10 euro that you spend with us, like Una was saying. And even with having the local staff and having such loyal staff, so even when we're encouraging them to move on, we find people don't want to leave because we've given them the first opportunity. And I'm kind of saying, take that door as quick as you can. And it's about your income and your future. But like when they come to tell us that potentially they're moving on, they don't even like that kind of discussion, and we're kind of encouraging that. So I think that the social enterprise space is kind of clear, but it's how the other policies is linked up and how we'll actually see that on the ground in the way of funding and supports. I'm not sure how that's going to affect us yet, but we hope that there'll be a positive spin-off from that.
That's great, and hopefully there is. And Una, what do you think, like in terms of we and like kind of your product area that you?
Well, I suppose I don't. It is a coincidence that both Martin and myself are from recyclers, that we're both in the recycling, not in reuse or repair. But that happens to be coincidental, I think, in this case. But we had last year, 2019, we'd actually looked for some funding through the probation service to employ a reuse facilitator, somebody who would come in, assess what we're getting through the door, and see if we could actually engage in a reuse activity, with specialising in IT, because that's where the market is at the minute. And unfortunately, we just couldn't afford the salaries that would be required to secure somebody with the skill set to drive that forward. We had 37,000 euros allocated at that time, and that just didn't bring the interest that we needed. So we have a high labor, the labor costs are high. So therefore, any of these specialized jobs to drive reuse in particular, there's going to be a significant investment. I have a visitor here jumping in front of my camera. So the well, they've been very good all day. It's just when they hear me talking, they decide they're going to. It's like Tarzan. They decide they come running.
That's great. Okay, yeah. So you were saying the specialized jobs that will be required to kind of meet the goals and objectives of the transition are very costly. So what kind of policies or supports, I guess, do you think you would need? What would be helpful?
I would say maybe a 3-year plan for those higher level jobs in getting the desired skill sets to build up capacity in the social enterprises. And then those jobs should become self-sustaining if it's going to be sustainable at that stage. But the other, and I always feel I'm the one throwing this into conversations, is insurance. Insurance that is going to go with reuse and repair. I know repair service engineers, etc., have their own repair, but once you're a social enterprise and we're involved in waste, and trying to get insurance on an annual basis, the public liability insurance is you need a box of Valium when you approach the brokers, to be quite honest, and you'd like them to take a box of Valium, to be quite honest as well. But it is a minefield, and you just don't know where the numbers come from, and it's difficult. It's so difficult that to throw to actually include reuse products. I just balk at the thoughts of going to my insurer and saying, can you include this on the prospectus for my insurance for public liability next year, or product liability? So that's definitely something that will have to be addressed, and not just talked about. We're going to have to see a change there before, or somebody, the government step in and somehow try and help underwrite it, or find support an insurance company, and one of our national ones that will get involved. But it is such a challenge. The insurance is really a challenge for us. I presume Martin would say.
Yeah, I imagine.
We have similar in Galway as well, and I think it's how the policy will reflect like the end of waste and make it more easy for recycling and reuse. Yeah. And I think that even like we were trying to explain at the time with our insurance, we're no different than a furniture shop going in, taking out a mattress, but it's just how everything is deemed as waste in this country. Even if we're saying that it is going to be repaired or reused, so maybe it's looking at the classification of that, because if that's not looked at, there won't be a circular economy as such, because there's such a process there at the end and how it's deemed.
Okay. Great, thank you so much. And yeah, that's a huge challenge, and hopefully we can overcome that, or there will be some supports for that. Now we have a question from Laura, who is asking, would offering parts for reuse or repair be a compromise with insurance, or kits people build themselves?
Can you repeat that, Christine, please?
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Laura said, would offering parts for reuse or repair be a compromise with insurances or kits people build themselves?
Well, I suppose it would be the third party then. So we would no longer be the reuser as such. We would be just harvesting parts. I presume that's what they're getting at. Yeah. So we would harvest the parts, we'll say, off washing machines, etc., and supply those for repair agents. Again, I would imagine there will be insurance dilemma there, but maybe less so. But unfortunately, it would be the repair person then would take all the issue. It's not just the social enterprises will have this issue. It will be the broader, anybody dealing with reused electrical and electronic equipment face a huge dilemma in terms of the insurance for product.
So I bet. So it sounds like regardless, right now, the way the system is set up isn't ideal. So there need to be some changes there. Okay, great. Well, it sounds like, and then overall, I guess just briefly, because we will need to wrap up and get to the main session, do you feel optimistic about kind of the policy developments and the circular economy and social economy?
Martin, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, it's great having them there, but it's the implementation of them. So we'll probably know more after a year or two how they're going actually and how they're reflected on the ground for projects like ourselves or UNA's or the CRNI members, because it's the implementation and how stuff is rolled out. Like, it's great to have policies, but it's another to have them implemented and rolled out, I think, on the ground. So we will. Maybe if we have a conference next year, Christine, might be able to tell me a bit more on that one.
That's right. That's right. Una, are you feeling optimistic?
I am feeling optimistic because the problems that I've outlined, they're not insurmountable. If somebody really grasps the nettle there, they really aren't insurmountable. And it was great to see a couple of weeks ago, Minister Eamon Ryan announce for CSPs in particular, or consortiums associated with CSP organisations, the bike repair schemes for increasing the amount of bikes back on the roads and availability of bikes. And I mean, it might just be the beginning, but at least it's a good beginning, at least. And so, yeah, that gives me hope for the future with the drivers of the policy.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to both of you. And thanks for all who joined this session. I hope you got a lot out of it. And, both Martin and Una's organizations, like information about them can be found in the expo. If you click on the expo to the left, and then you can also connect with them directly if you have kind of more questions or want to network with them just by clicking on their name. And then there'll be a kind of a menu that drops down where you can schedule meetings, send a message, invite to a video call. So take a look at that. And we look forward to hearing more as we go and move along during this huge evolution of the sector. So thanks, and go ahead and right now we'll leave this session and then join the main stage.